What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I did an experiment recently. So Portra, as you may or may not know, in pretty much all of its flavors in 35mm has been essentially impossible to get. Like so difficult to get that I, as a distributor, can't get it. The person who sells it to me can't get it. Kodak is just so far behind that there's just no way they can get us the film. So I thought, what's a film stock I can get? And is there a way I can make it look or feel a little bit more like Portra? Now, I'm not going to be able to get the whole thing, right? That's a proprietary, professional recipe that Kodak has and charges a lot of money for, and rightly so. But I figured if I got something like Fuji Superia 400 and put a warming filter of some kind on it, I could get some of that California at sunset feeling out of the film while not having to pay $17 a roll for it, because Superia is crazy cheap. Now, spoiler alert, it didn't work, but it makes Superia a lot better, in my opinion. So I took a roll of film and I took my Nicker mat, right? I have a thing for old cameras like this, and this Nicker mat, as you may or may not be able to tell, has a warming filter on it. So, right? That's what I did to this film, basically. This is a 85B, 85 Bravo, which I put on my Nicker mat. And what I would do is I would take two photos back to back, one with, one without, or one without and one with, depending on where I was in the orientation. Shot them on Fuji Superia 400 at box speed. Of course, camera doesn't have a meter, and I didn't really bother metering, so I shot them probably a stopover box, just to be on the safe side, right? Which I like to do with Fuji films anyway. And as you may or may not know, Fuji films tend to be green-blue biased, so I figured a little bit of warmth, hopefully, would allow me to keep my greens and blues, and then add warmth also additionally. So without any further ado, let's look at this. So switch to the screen. Here is all of the images that I shot that are like a quick, clear comparison where I did two shots back to back, and it's pretty easy to tell which is which. So let's just start at the beginning here, right? So we'll go back and forth so you can see what's going on. Here's one, here's two. Now obviously it took me a little while to put the filter on, but you can see if we look over here into the reflections of these boats and at the tones of the boats themselves, I've got some warmth there, but nowhere near as much warmth as I have here and in the water. The blue of the water changes, the blue of the sky changes. Yeah, so kind of interesting. And then granted, all of these have been run through Negative Lab Pro and no other adjustments have been made. So kind of interesting stuff. So there's a 1, 2. Here's another one that's real easy to tell. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Look at the whites here. 2, 1, 2. I mean, it's a pretty, I wouldn't say it's drastic, but it's definitely noticeable. And I think for an image like this, drastically improves it. Without the filter, I've got good blues in the water, a lot of blue in the shadows, good greens in the background. With the filter, I have an okay blue, warmer green, but everything else is much more sort of what it feels like in California, right? Like, California light just hits different, it's warmer, it's lower, there's a lot more atmosphere to filter it than we have here in Flagstaff. This is what it felt like to be sitting there, more so than that. Right, so here's another example. This is very clear. It's an overcast day, but you can see 1, 2. Look at the water. Boom, 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 boom. Now in this case, because it's an overcast day, I'm not sure that this is necessarily the answer, right? Photographing something like the blue of the water and it just turns this like gross orange badness. But I also don't lose the proper blue and greens in some of these boats. Whoa, thanks Lightroom, that was fun. So, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. Overcast, maybe not so great. Here's another example. Same scene, just as a vertical to show more boats. So 1, 2, 1, 2. The water down here is way better without the filter, but the docks, not near as good. I like the warmth in the docks, that doesn't hurt us. And this, I could probably tone this back. I could probably let Lightroom have me pull a little bit of yellow orange out of this, or have me push a little bit of more blue into this and get kind of close to where I wanted to go, right? Very interesting. Here's another one. So up nice and tight. This rope is whitish, this rope is yellowish in, you know, the real world. But this, it didn't feel like that white blue, right? It felt like somewhere in between these two is really what it is. So I could take this and maybe desaturate it a little bit, or this and add a fair bit of warmth to it. And either way would get me pretty much where I wanted to go. But, you know, on the overcast, because this is shot overcast, you know, overcast day, we're out wandering before the marine layer burns off. Little too warm. I like it a little warm, but it is a little too warm. So here we are out on the boat. That's Kristen. You may or may not recognize her from the shop. This is Sarah. She's one of the captains of the boat. So with, without, with, without. You can notice the specular highlights doing different things. You can obviously notice the sky and the water doing different things, right? But all of the whites of the boat get so much warmer and richer than the sort of high contrast feeling you get. Maybe not high contrast. I don't know what the word is, but you get a feeling from the stark white of the boat, and the warmth here makes it feel different. I like this feeling probably a little bit better. Now it does push skin tones a little far. Like that's not, even with a sunburn, that's not what Kristen looks like, right? So I could probably back that off a little bit. I might use a filter between no filter and the 85B, and I do have those, so maybe that'll be my next experiment if and when I can get Fujifilm again. And then here's one last experiment. So Mark, that's the other captain of the boat. It's my brother Mark, and he doesn't look like that really, nor does he look like that really, right? So with filter, without, with, without, with, without. Really, it's somewhere in the middle, right? There's definitely a place for that. And if I ask Lightroom to give me a little bit more blue, a little bit less yellow, we might be able to get somewhere in the middle. So that's this. All I'm doing is changing the white balance on Lightroom. You can't see it, but here's a before and an after, just dialing the white balance back by 10 points towards the blue side. And that feels a little bit more natural to me. And both of those are more natural than this, which is just not. But that's nice. I'm loving it. And then just because we can and we're here, this is a really great photo I got of my parents looking super adorable, and that is with the filter, but it didn't totally ruin their skin tone. Like, yeah, it's a little orange. D is for develop. But if we dial just a tiny bit of blue into this, you know, much more natural, far less of a blue-green tendency, I guess, far less blue-green dependent, and we get a little bit more of the warmth back. So I think, in summary, my answer is probably a warming filter between the filter that I've got on the camera for these shots, which is the 85B, and no filter at all. But I think as a proof of concept, totally works. And a warming filter plus a Fujifilm will get you much closer to the Kodak feeling of Portra. Anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting comparison. I thought you might enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is there another filter I should use? I know I've seen the chocolate series of filters. I don't think that's the answer. I think I need less warmth. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Is it even worth trying to fake Portra, or should we all just give up on Portra as a film stock because it's impossible to buy? Let me know what you think, and see you in the next one.